הלכו גויים לאורך, ומלכים לנוגה זרח. Nations shall walk towards your light, and kings towards your sunrise. Your gates shall be open always, day or night. They shall not be shut, to bring the wealth of nations, their kings led as in procession. It seems poignantly appropriate to be reading these verses from our Haftarah this Shabbat. It is as though the prophet, 2,500 years ago, anticipates not only the historic procession of his people as they return from exile to Zion, their days of mourning ended, but also another momentous time in history, witnessing the new king, Charles III, lead the procession behind the gun carriage, bearing his mother's coffin, seeing royal families, dignitaries, leaders, diplomats, men, women, and children from all over this country gather for the funeral of the Queen. Of course, this farewell to a queen who reigned for over 70 years is a sorrowful moment in all our lives, the loss of a constant presence who blessed our country and the countries of the Commonwealth with grace and wisdom, with discretion and stability, with light and laughter. If we are uneasy at this moment of unrootedness and change, grief and mourning, it is because we are not yet ready to let go of the past, to embrace a kingly future. And yet, for all our sorrow, it is also a moment of possibility and hope. A new king walks towards the sunrise, pledges his service to the people, just as you, Max, this morning, have made your own promises to continue to study our Jewish heritage in the years ahead. Within that promise lies the understanding that you, like the generations before you, are on a journey, traveling from Sinai to Canaan, as your parasha alludes to, bearing the history of our people, exile and return with the prophet of our Haftarah, wandering from one place to another, prospering as in places like Muslim Spain in the early Middle Ages, but also persecuted and expelled from the places in which our people settled. In your Devar Torah, you describe the fate of many of your family, and your grandfather, Jacob, alluded to that as well. Your great-great-grandparents, among others, and the survival of your great-grandfather, Itzhak Josefovich, the father of your grandfather, who is with us here today with your two grandmothers and other members of your family. Itzhak's father was robbed and murdered just before he was born in 1919, and Itzhak himself, whose mother, aunt, and sister were all murdered in Treblinka in 1942, survived the harsh and brutal life of not one, not two, but 6 different labor and concentration camps, including Krakow, Plaszow, and Evansy, one of the most cruel and diabolical subcamps of Mauthausen. In recent weeks, as we saw in the photographs up on the wall behind me, you have been fortunate to visit those places that have significance for your family in Germany, and last year, I think after Michael's bar mitzvah in Poland. And perhaps, as you said, soon you'll be able to visit Hungary, where your grandmother's family originated. For as Jews, our experience of the displacement of our people over so many generations has often created a sense of unease and apprehension. How can we know that our future is assured in the places we choose to live. The process of change for all of us as individuals can be immensely disruptive and unsettling. With the loss of our Queen, the constant is no longer the serene and small figure in her colourful coats and hats, but some sense of disruption and turmoil. A new king, a new prime minister, a war in Europe, the assault on our wallets in the form of inflation, famine in different parts of the world, extreme weather systems, some of the most vulnerable members of our society threatened with deportation to Rwanda. Just one of these would be enough to cause anxiety and fear for the future. But many are coping with a plethora of disruption and the uncertainty and fear of not being able to manage their lives as they would wish. Whatever our circumstances, I think we are all affected by that uncertainty and by the knowledge that for too many, life has become more difficult, more ominous, more fearful. What abides, what endures in our lives, are not, we hope, those external factors, but what exists deep within us, being part of the Jewish people, with our common heritage and task. It is that profound engagement with the texts of our Torah, the stories and laws that have sustained our people over millennia. That is why it is so important for you, Max, to have learnt this significant portion from Deuteronomy, which you chanted with such confidence and musicality this morning. Embedded in your parashah is this concise rehearsal of our history to be recited by the Israelite as he brings his offerings of first fruits to the temple. A wandering Aramean was my father. He went down to Egypt, few in number, and sojourned there. But there he became a great and very populous nation. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. As you said in our Devar Torah, this is the passage we recite at our Passover Sederim, the story of slavery and the exodus from Egypt. It is the story we retell again and again from one year to the next. It represents constancy, something enduring from the past, something unchanged. And yet, in our retelling of this foundational narrative of our people, it is also subject to many different interpretations, from its earliest reduction to our own time. We adapt inherited traditions to suit our own time. The kings led as in a procession in our Haftarah is read today through the prism of seeing our own king march behind the hearse of his mother. Such texts transcend history. They become timeless and inexhaustible for as long as we continue to recite them. And they bring us hope because they remind us of dark times of upheaval and turmoil in the past, and our people's capacity to survive, to adapt, to resist ossification and irrelevance. There is something beyond the arc of history, deeper than one event following another. Perhaps it is faith, perhaps beauty, perhaps our capacity to tell stories in new ways. Perhaps it is the natural world, or music, or art, or science, or Minecraft. Perhaps it is human nature, kindness, loyalty, love. Perhaps it is that deepest part of ourselves that some people call God. that summons us to be the best possible person we can be. Max, in getting to know you over these past few months, and indeed longer, I've watched you become the young person you are today, respectful, confident, thoughtful, super active, and ambitious. Whether it is tennis or baseball, DT, science or maths, music or Minecraft, or an ambition to qualify for the GB Baseball Olympic team in 2028, your passions and interests are underpinned by the values taught to you by your family, in whom you demonstrate your pride and who are justifiably proud of you, especially today. You are kind and thoughtful. You have a strong sense of fairness and care for everybody. You are optimistic and have a good sense of humor. May you always remain faithful to our heritage and responsive to the needs of the present. And may God's light guide you always by night and day, as it is written in the words of our Haftarah, which we just read. No more shall your sun go down or your moon disappear, for the Eternal One will be your everlasting light, and your days of mourning shall be ended. Your people shall be righteous, all of them, and tend the land forever. Amen. Max, just come and join me once more on the bima so that I can present you with a book which we'll be using in just over a week's time, our Mahsor for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And in there is a book plate with your name and the Hebrew date and our date today. And we all wish you Mazal Tov.